morning everyone. I am John Michael B. Alvero from BSN English 1, and today I'm going to be presenting to you the language teaching and how does it help. But before we start, let me read to you the objectives of my report. At the end of the discussion, students can understand and analyze the theories of language teaching and determine when does language teaching help or does not help us. As we go through the main topic, let me just read to you the theory of Don in 1994, which he stated that the capacity to learn is deeply ingrained in us as species, just as the capacity to walk, grasp objects, and recognize faces. We do not find any serious differences in children growing up in congested urban slums, isolated mountain villages, or in privileged suburban villas. So, when does language teaching help? Language teaching helps when it is the main source of low-filter comprehensible input, that is for beginners and for foreign language students who do not have a chance to get input outside the class. It will be of less help when rich sources of input are available. If acquisition is more central and learning of less use to second language performance, and if comprehensible input and the filter are the essential causative variables for second language acquisition, the classroom should help only to the extent it supplies comprehensible input in an environment conducive to a low filter. I had mentioned earlier about the comprehensible input. So, does anybody of you know what comprehensible input is, or what is the importance of comprehensible input in language teaching or language acquisition? So, comprehensible input is language input that can be understood by listeners despite them not understanding all the words and structures in it. It is a linguistic theory first proposed by Stephen Krashen. Essentially, it states that second language learners need to be exposed to linguistic input that is just slightly above their current language level so that they can understand the new input. One of the comprehensible input examples is to use drawings, images, doodles, or objects in order to illustrate the complex or abstract concepts that you are explaining. Let's take this for example. Breer in 1978 investigated the factors that predicted successful acquisition of Spanish as a second language among 920 Mexican children ages 4 through 12. Among the best predictors of Spanish proficiency was attendance in class in this village school. This makes sense in terms of our hypothesis, since the promotorio was the major source of comprehensible inputs in Spanish, as opportunities to use Spanish outside the classroom were not plentiful. Moreover, Krashen, Zelansky, Jones, and Asprich in 1978 tested students in an extension program in English as a second language at Queens College in New York, and reported robust correlations between reported years of formal study and performance on a variety of ESL tests. So as a result, they stated that despite the fact that these students were in the United States and technically in a second language and not a foreign language environment, it is likely that, in many cases, they did not have a rich input source available to them outside the class. So let's proceed to when language teaching does not help. Hale and Budor in 1970 studied immigrant adolescents in Hawaiian junior high schools. In their paper, they noted that the subjects formed of a natural division. One group was composed of students who spoke less common languages. These students did not have the benefit of a formal ESL program and were isolated from speakers of their own language. The second group consisted of students who had the chance to associate with other students who spoke their own first language. These students did attend ESL classes. Hale and Budor report that the first group actually made better progress in English, a finding that seems to question the value of ESL classes. The first group, however, may have had more comprehensible input, possibly through having to associate more with English speakers and with other non-native speakers using English as a lingua franca. This study also fits our generalization and confirms that the issue is not plus or minus ESL or language teaching, but plus or minus low filter comprehensible input. In conclusion, language teaching certainly can help. Its primary function is to supply comprehensible input for those who cannot get it elsewhere, those constrained by their situation or by their competence. While it is less useful for those who have other sources of input, there still are things the competent classroom can contribute to the intermediate students. It can supply conscious learning for optimal monitor use and give tools to help the acquirer utilize the outside environment more fully for further acquisition. And that ends my presentation, and I hope you guys have learned something about language teaching. Thank you for listening.